What do you do when your players are disagreeing with each other or when they have an issue with you? That's a discussion we're going to have a little bit for tonight's video. Well, yeah, tonight. It's actually like 9 o'clock, which I know it doesn't sound that late, but considering the fact I get up to go to work at 3 in the morning, 9 o'clock is late. Um, but I wanted to crank something out real fast because I really felt we needed a video. It's been a little while, and I apologize for that. Been busy. But I want to give a video, and we're going to talk a little bit about what do you do when there's an issue, when there conflict arises in your group, and not the conflict like so and so wants to go to this place and so wants to go to this place. I mean, that can be an issue. Depends on the scale of things. You know, if so and so says, "Hey, I want to go to a blacksmith in town," the other guy says, "Well, I want to go to the mayor in town." That's simple. You just split the party, or you say, "Okay, we'll go to the blacksmith and then we'll go to the mayor," or vice versa. But what happens when there's a serious issue, like maybe someone says, "Hey, I want to go to this country and go on this quest," well, everyone else is like, a bunch of other players are like, "Well, we want to go to this country and go to this quest." You know, two completely different things that cannot be both done easily. Or it's something like, you know, so and so enjoys this more, so and so enjoys this more. This was an issue I recently had to come up in my D&D Red group. Vishnu, Loki, Altamizai, Torvin, that group. What had happened was the players are reaching about 10th or about 11th level, and at this point they're pretty high up. They've also been involved with a lot of politics, as the area they're living in and been, you know, lording over has actually become part of a new entire kingdom that's been reformed from an ancient kingdom. There's a bunch of history I can't get into at the moment. And so there's a lot of politics going on. They were kind of really, and some of the players were getting kind of tired of it. One of our players, Anthony. Anthony just loves politics. You know, it's not like he wants to do politics all day, but he's happy doing it for a long time. Meanwhile, Teddy and Nathaniel were getting a little tired of it. Teddy especially wanted to go basically XP farm. As they're reaching 10th level and 11th level and such, they're tapping in some of their higher powers, and Teddy especially is mostly excited to reach about 17th level, mostly when he kind of unlocks 9th level spells and some of his high-end abilities. So he would really want to go XP farm. But yet Torvin wanted to do politics. And so there was kind of this split, and Nathaniel kind of sided with Teddy, and so the problem was it kind of created this imbalance. It wasn't like, oh, it was fairly balanced. It wasn't like if you had 2 versus 3. When it's 1 versus 2, it feels really imbalanced. And of course, being a DM, you need to take a level of impartiality. Now, I say this with a bit of an asterisk. In this case, we had 2 different play styles. You know, if you have 2 different quests, you just have to kind of, that's a slightly different issue. But here we had 2 different play styles. One guy wanted to dive into politics. The other guys wanted to dive into just dungeon crawling. And as a DM, I have to ask myself, what kind of game would I rather run at the moment? Now, I enjoy politics. Personally, I enjoy playing a little bit of politics. I don't need to like be super into it, but I enjoy kind of negotiations and stuff like that. I enjoy all that kind of stuff and interactions. I do love going through a dungeon and just killing orcs and rolling dice. But typically I do try and run my games with a pretty, once you get up there, a pretty decent amount of politics involved. And so I was happy to indulge the politics. Yet at the same time, at the moment, I've been feeling a little more dungeon crawling. So what I did is I talked to my players separately, and that's the point of this lesson. We had this conflict, and what we did is we just talked about it. We were very adult about this, and we just talked about it. And I talked to Anthony. I said, "Okay, Anthony, what do you want?" And he talked about him. And I talked to the issues with Teddy and Nathaniel, and we got the issue actually resolved. It took a little while. It took a couple days to get it really kind of resolved. And what it came down to, basically, we figured out, we kind of talked to him, and he said, and I managed to get these guys to say, "Hey, we don't," Teddy and Nathaniel said, "Hey, we don't dislike politics. We just feel like we've done a lot of it." And Teddy really wants to get to the to the XP farming, and Nathaniel wants to do so as well, though he's willing to do some politics. Whereas Anthony was like, "Hey, I really like the politics, but I'm happy to do dungeon crawling, but I feel like my characters would be really into politics." And that was a fair point. He brought up an excellent, recognition of saying, my characters want the politics. I enjoy it, but it's my characters who are like, say, this is what they want to do. And so what we just came up with is that simply his characters are going to dive into politics. They're going to turn into kind of NPCs that he'll still control through me, but they'll be NPCs. Meanwhile, Anthony will make some new characters, which will then bring in, and the rest of the group can now go do some dungeon crawling. They'll still do some politics, but they'll be mostly focused on more of the XP farming and such. And thus we were able to resolve an issue that had a pretty big impact on what the campaign was going to be. Was it going to be a lot of politics? Was it going to be a lot of just running around killing things? And it changes what I need to expect from my players and what I need to prepare for them. Now, if you have something kind of like, oh, so-and-so wants to go here and do this quest line, the other one wants to do this quest line, that's the same thing. You just got to sit down, you got to talk about it. Now, that's an easier issue if you just say, okay, where do we go first? Who sucks it up and says, all right, fine, but we do this right afterwards. And I think that's a much easier one. And then maybe you kind of say, okay, well, I get dibs on treasure or something like that. And you can do bribes and stuff like that. You can figure out how you want to negotiate it. But it's important that you talk about it, because talking is how we resolve our issues. And that's not just a real world thing. That's a D&D thing. That's why one of the reasons why D&D is great is it helps us learn skills like talking out our issues and conflicts in order to prepare to do them in real life. I mean, if you ever come into an issue and you're not sure what to do, just talk to your players. Talk to them. Really, that's all I can say. Just talk it out. Thank you guys for watching. Content is being a little more scattered. I'm sorry. For right now, I can't guarantee anything. I'd like to guarantee something better. I can't just right at this moment. But thank you guys for sticking with me. As always, stay cool.